It's so good to hear how very different stakeholders and players have gathered today in this beautiful green room to talk diversity. One of the special guests today that I'm very honored to invite on the stage is Daniel Cosby, a key account manager at the M-Files. Daniel is here to share his professional and personal insights on how non-obvious differences between cultures can actually cause big impact. Daniel came to Finland 11 years ago. He was also a spouse and still remembers gratefully how Finland took him in with arms wide open. And he's here today to share his journey and his story about this. He strongly believes that Tampere should have an international exposure, and vice versa. So let's welcome on the stage Daniel Cosby and his very own Finnish journey.
Is it okay if I go without the microphone? Is that in the back? Yes, good.
You need to use it because we're filming.
Recording? I should use it.
Yes.
Oh. I guarantee you I'm going to be speaking into this and clicking with the microphone before the day is done. May I? I'm here for the water as well. May I steal this? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Oh, you do speak Finnish. I'll just get this correct. But one of the things that I got from the first presentation, no joke, is sweaty palms from that jumping video. I don't know if anybody else has the same absolute terror when it comes. Thank you, Julia, for the very warm welcome. I could possibly add to that, still is a spouse, so not just was, she hasn't wised up yet, let's put it that way. And I noticed that the lights got dimmer before I stood up here, and I don't know if I should take that personally or not. Sorry, let me, I'm better looking the darker it gets, trust me. Good. My name is Daniel Cosby. Good afternoon, and thank you also for the opportunity to get to meet all of you here today. You probably have guessed from my beautiful English accent that I'm originally from the US, number 19 on the list of happiest countries. I have been here since 2006. So as Julia mentioned, 11 years. So this cliche of you get less time for murder now applies to me. How many Finns in the room, just so I get a sense of whom I will be offending in just a moment. It's meant with love, so let's hopefully take it with that in mind. I've noticed when I was thinking what might be interesting for you here today, that my mind kept coming back to sort of a cliche that I use. And it's a cliche that I use when I get a question either from people back I still sometimes say back home, back in the US, and I get from here in Finland. And who's not from Finland? So everybody who didn't just raise their hands. Is the question familiar to you? Why did you come to Finland? Yes. What brought you here? Yes. Yeah, this kind of thing. What's funny to me is when people from the States ask this question, there's sort of this undertone of, Finland? Really? Why? Why would you leave the greatest nation on the planet for some country we've never heard of? And what's funny with that is so the Americans ask it that way. The Finns, on the other hand, you lovely Finns in the audience, when you ask that question, it's the exact same tone of voice. Why would you come to Finland? What would cause you to make such a decision? But the cliche that I come to when answering that question that I wanted to share with you today is that the big differences I've noticed. So what brought you here? And sorry, the addendum to that question is, what's different? What's hard? What do you like? What don't you like? And when pondering that, when I come up with this, the devil is in the details. And this actually sort of resonates with the presentation we saw at the beginning with this cultural iceberg sort of picture, that for me at least, it's not the big obvious things. And for those with whom I've been fortunate enough to work, so I've been in the last 11 years quite fortunate in working with some very large Finnish organizations, some very small Finnish organizations as an external, so doing some believe it or not, communications and presentations coaching. They perhaps didn't get their money worth there. And since 2014, been just across the road there internally at M-Files as a full-time employee. So these obvious things of language, I think we all expect that. It's a known. You know you're walking into a different language. The weather, it seems to be the big two, the language and the weather. For me at least, and I don't know your experiences with this, those aren't the biggest things. The big things aren't the biggest things. It's these teeny tiny little, you didn't know it was going to happen, like pebble in your shoe kind of thing, and then after the first year, there's another pebble in the shoe kind of thing. So, I'm a little behind here. I'm not big on PowerPoint. The devil is in the details. These are the things that you can anticipate. Sorry, I'm just looking at this sort of from audience perspective. And if we look at the Finnish Easter pudding or Finnish rye pudding, this mämmi here in the top right, and then local specialty, mustamakkara. So we've got the blood sausage here in the bottom left. I didn't do this intentionally. There seems to be sort of there's sort of a consistency there, isn't there, with this with this swamp soccer? sorry, I don't mean to offend. These are the obvious fun things, at least for me and those with whom I've been fortunate enough to work in the past years. The small things, the devil in the details. This was not the first, but one of, I'm not very good with microphones, one of the first work emails I received in Finland. So this is, I lied, I got my years wrong, I was here since 2007. This is 2007 Daniel. Americans lie, you can note that down. 2007 Daniel received this email from Sari, who was the founder of the company, the CEO of the company, who is a Finn, but who speaks brilliant English, much better than mine, albeit with an Australian twang, which is quite nice. So I get this email from Sari, hey, finish the reporting by Friday, best regards, Sari. How does Daniel the American read this particular email? How does this land for me? Yes, I've done something wrong. Oh no, I'm going to be fired and they're going to send me back to Virginia. And this is my future. So I'm on the phone with Sari. Honestly, hey, Sari, got your message? Yeah. Yeah, is everything all right? Yeah. Why? The reporting you mentioned. Yeah, I need it by Friday. So okay, but we're cool, right? Yes, why would you ask such a ridiculous question? So this teeny tiny difference, two people who ostensibly speak brilliant English, communicating via this modern email technology, can so badly misunderstand each other. Tiny things that start adding up for me. Tiny things within a company. I've grown to appreciate, by the way, the Finnish approach, just so the Finns in the audience know. Why waste time and calories on... It would be brilliant if you could think about having the report possibly ready by Friday, and I would truly appreciate it, and hopefully the weather is nice and all this kind of stuff. So, I have prepared for you a highly scientific Finnish etiquette, some people can speak English, etiquette quiz, which I've used in some of my previous presentations and workshops with companies doing international business. I've used this actually at a local company a few years ago, or at least some version of this called Fastems, that had invited a large international workforce to Tampere to do this kind of Fastems International Week. And part of the idea was have a little bit of fun, of course, maybe make fun of Finns just a little bit, so you'll see that here in just a second. But possibly also explain where some of these teeny tiny differences, the bottom part of that iceberg, are having impacts in the real world. So, I've subtitled this quiz, by the way. This is the Daniel saying to Kati, what is wrong with you people? / we're moving. So here we go. In Finland, what do you do if you accidentally bump into someone at the store? So you're there with your shopping cart. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, come on. What part of Finland do you live in?
No, well,
Oh. Brilliant. I've come to appreciate that so much can be communicated with 3 letters. Oh. This is, by the way, in my opinion, if it's a polite Finn, you get the oh. Again, what is the poor American boy expecting? Excuse me, I'm so sorry. In fact, I didn't notice this in the US until I went back sort of as a foreigner in my own country now, that Americans apologize when they come close to each other. I've grown out of that habit. Good. You are standing, apparently I do a lot of shopping. You are standing in a long line at the grocery store. We had this queuing piece earlier, a brilliant video earlier, this Welcome to Finland. So standing in line, and the next register opens up. Finland's love to queue, right? What happens? Yes, I heard a sound effect. I heard a whee. I've never seen Finns move faster in my life. It is a mad dash. This kind of proverbial last helicopter out of Saigon, and everybody's sprinting towards this. Once again, how am I reading the situation? Who's spent time? Are there fellow Americans in the audience? Oh, I'm the lone representative. Okay, it's a lot of pressure. What am I expecting to happen? Any idea? This one seems to catch people by surprise. What's there? No. Okay. Yes. Person in front of me. Hey, sorry, you've been waiting longer. You go. Yeah, exactly. This is my wife's reaction too. Are you insane? We're trying to get out of here. Yeah. Last one. You order an outrageously overpriced steak. They're all outrageously overpriced in Finland. And it is not cooked as you requested. You ordered medium rare and it's burnt to a crisp. What do you do? Sorry?
Nothing.
Yeah, it's not even a question. What do you mean, what do? You eat it and you go home. Yes. We, of course, I can't speak for all 300 whatever million Americans there are now, and there are some other native English speakers in this audience, if I'm not mistaken. I think this probably holds true for all of us. You send it back, correct? Yeah? Yeah, okay. Actually, more than just nothing in Finland. This is what I've witnessed. I've witnessed this firsthand. My mother-in-law, or at some rosso or something like this, she orders, the potatoes were there too. There's a lot of recurring themes here. Some kind of wedge potatoes or something like this, and they were undercooked. So she just kind of ate a few and left them there on the side. And I'm going, well, get your money back, send them back, get a free coupon, something. No. But then the next day, we have relatives over. My wife's family is over at the house. And she's complaining to all of them, don't go to Rosso. They undercook the potatoes. You're never going to... How is Rosso ever going to learn this unless you complain? So, of these, I can count, of these 3, when presented to a team of professionals, a business audience, if you will, which of the 3 was the most disturbing to the non-Finns? In a business context, which do you think? Number 3. Any other votes? Number 1, okay. 2. Now they're all covered. It's none of them. No, it's. I've grown used to silence, by the way. You can't silent treatment me anymore. That's better. It is number 3, for sure. Points in the back. Why? Why this little pebble, little grain in the shoe kind of thing? Why did this one irritate in a business context?
Because we think that we can read other person's thoughts.
Yes. No feedback, reading other people's thoughts. Exactly correct. So I had a gentleman in the break come up to me and say, yes, they never tell us if we do it right, if we screw it up. We don't hear back. How do we know? What the hell? Excuse me, I don't know. Am I allowed to use There's still the American in me. Can I curse? What is going on? I would argue this is a rather powerful question. And it's something in my own experience at M-Files that I've seen. So I think it's safe to argue that M-Files is an international success story, a Finnish company that's succeeding internationally. I'm seeing a lot of the benefits of us having, I'm not talking about me, hey, they've hired me, so I'm seeing a lot of the benefits of having co-workers from China, from India, sitting just across the street there, from the Netherlands, from the States. I'm one of 2 now Americans across the street there. These types of little pebble type things that perhaps aren't so obvious to the company. I think with this international talent boost, often I think, and rightly so, the attraction is external. Meaning if we hire an American who speaks English fairly well, passably well anyways, and happens to speak some German, that's a nice bonus. So we can send him to Austria and Germany and Switzerland, and he can take care of our customers there. Certainly that's true, but I think there's so much that we're missing within the company. There are so many of these internal benefits that don't just relate to dealing with customers and this kind of thing, but improving processes, improving open communication, and sharing feedback, which I would argue on a scale of 1 to 10 is important. Yes.
Hi, I'm Kirsi. I work in HR at the University of Helsinki. I just wanted to comment that even though we do that, it's there's a contradiction here because we also want feedback. So every survey, staff survey that we do, any kind of survey that we do, always people want more feedback. So we also want it, even though we don't give it. It's quite a ridiculous contradiction.
It is.
I have no idea how to solve this, but...
May I throw a little fuel on the fire? Without naming names, one of my early days at M-Files, because this was my first time stepping into a full-time sales role, so I was unsure of myself. Is this really the right path for me? Am I any good? Yes or no? And I asked my supervisor at the time, after the first 6 months, and said, hey, I've heard nothing back. Is this a future? Tell me now so I can refocus. I said, I'm not getting any feedback. And he said, yes, you are. I said, well, sorry, where? He goes, well, you get your paychecks every month. Fair enough. I actually hadn't, and I'm probably over time now, aren't I? So, yes, thank you. So, unless there are any other quick questions, I will end your misery. Very briefly, no, sorry, Yulia, there's one thing. I argue that there are also opportunities there where the devil resides in the details. And I can't help myself with this. So I'm a bit of an Austria fanatic. I don't know where that comes from. I love the country. If I lived anywhere other than Finland, it would be Austria. And I use my son as a prop. So this is sort of before and after picture. This is my son Samuel in Austria. Years ago, he's an angry 12-year-old today. Christmas market, having a good time, this kind of thing. This is my boy in the States, also years ago. It's plus 32, and he's swimming, having a good time, this kind of thing. Finns, can you guess where this is going? This is my son in Finland. Because Finns take poking so much better than Americans do, let me also just step on the time just a little bit more and thank the Finns in the room for welcoming me. You really did, with open arms. One of the best decisions I've ever made, after tricking my wife into marrying me, was her tricking me into moving to Finland. Thank you. Also, thank you for paying your taxes. That's also appreciated. My boy's going to school for free, which is awesome. And to the non-Finns in the room, if you are considering staying, If you've been here for a while, I don't know what your situation is, I can highly recommend staying. I'm not going anywhere else unless they boot me out. Thank you.